Welcome back to Face the Nation. I'm John Dickerson. Joining us now, New York Democratic Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. Senator, let's talk a little bit about the news of the day. President Obama said it might have been possible that there was a bomb on this Russian airliner that went down, perhaps a terrorist act. What do you know about that as a member of the Armed Services Committee?
Well, we have no intelligence beyond certainly what the president has. And it is interesting that UK intelligence thinks it's more likely than not that it could have been a bomb. It's a serious issue. And obviously, this issue of terrorism really weighs on the American people. So I think it's important that we fully investigate it, that we know all the answers, and understand really what was at play.
If, and this is a big if, but if ISIS was involved, what does that tell you about their changing profile and the U.S. fight against ISIS?
Well, it would seem to be a change in profile. It would seem to be a different level of capacity that we've not seen in the past. And obviously that would cause grave concern for many of us who focus on national security. As a New Yorker, we are often the #1 terror target. We've been able to subvert attempts in the past. And it's very important that we do this full investigation so we are knowledgeable.
What's your feeling about the war against ISIS, particularly in Syria? The president's got 50 special operations troops in there. What did you think of that move?
Well, I think he needs an authorization from Congress. He would need, if he wants to put troops on the ground in Syria, he does not currently have an authorization to do that. And I did not support his strategy to arm the rebels. I didn't think that would work. I thought those arms would end up in the hands of ISIL. And so I was very concerned about that strategy and voted against the Armed Services Bill because of it. But I do think he needs to come back to Congress if he wants to create this new strategy of 50 advisors who will be on the ground in some missions, and I think it's important that he gets permission from Congress to do so.
What's your feeling about the underlying choice of that strategy, though?
I think I don't think it's a strategy that will work long term. I think ISIL is a grave threat to the region. It's causing extraordinary instability. I think what we could be doing more of is dealing with the humanitarian crisis. I wish we were focused on how we can create relief for millions of families that are streaming out of Syria. I've seen our European partners really pick up the pace and take significant responsibility for these families. What Germany has done is outstanding. I think America should be doing more.
Does doing more mean a no-fly zone to protect those refugees?
Well, I know that's something that the administration has been considering. No-fly zones require, if it's a humanitarian no-fly zone, they require boots on the ground. And that is not something that I support right now. It's not something that I think the American people want to see, thousands of troops in Syria. But we need to do something about the humanitarian crisis. And so I think we should be stepping up. We should be receiving more families. We should receive them before 2017. We should be doing it now. And we should be helping. I see pictures of children dying, crying, suffering, and we should be doing more.
Let me talk to you about the thing you've been working so hard on, which is getting funding for the 9/11 first responders. What's the state of the legislation and the funding for those who rushed in after the attack?
Well, it's expired, and I think it's a moral outrage that we are not standing by our first responders. These are the men and women who literally raced up towers when everyone else was coming down and did the awful and hard work of first looking for survivors and then looking for remains. And if you remember the days after 9/11, toxins were streaming out of the site, and they were breathing in these toxins for weeks and months. And unfortunately, these men are now dying. More police officers have died since 9/11 than on 9/11. Over 200 first responders have died since 9/11 from these diseases. And there are thousands that are sick. There's tens of thousands who are being treated today in every state in the country. And I think it's a moral outrage that members of Congress are not doing the right thing and standing by this. We need to reauthorize the program. It needs to be permanent. We've had this program up and running for 5 years. There's been no fraud. It's been seamless. And we've treated cancers and other diseases that are now directly caused by 9/11 toxins. It's been proven. So there's no reason that anyone should stand in the way. And if they do, they're putting politics before people. And I think it is a grave mistake to not support them.
Let me ask you about Wall Street, your constituents. In the Democratic Party, there is a big conversation about the role of Wall Street. And a lot of Democrats, a lot of liberals say, we got to go right at Wall Street, both for what they do to tilt the economic field, but also because it's an important symbol. And we need, as a party, to be tough on Wall Street because it shows all across the country that we are for the 99% and not for the 1%. What do you make of that?
Well, I think there's a huge issue in the country about income inequality and lack of opportunity. And if you're talking about an inner city where it's more likely that a young African-American male is going to go to jail than graduate from college, that's a huge problem. And we have to fix that. So there's injustice throughout our economy, throughout opportunity, throughout access to education. The fact that young kids aren't getting universal pre-K in too many cities, aren't getting even universal kindergarten. Access to affordable daycare is harming our future for our children in every part of this country. And I think in terms of Wall Street and banking, the worst thing in the world for America is to have another financial collapse. So there are legitimate issues that need to be reviewed to make sure we have the right oversight and accountability over our banking institutions, to make sure the rating agencies are being held accountable for how their play in the financial collapse. Because we want the financial markets to always be there for us, to fund our businesses, to fund the economy. And so I think both both sides of that coin are legitimate areas for debate and discussion.
Do you think there's a little overdoing it, though, in the going after Wall Street as the heart of this inequality that you described?
I think it's used as a shorthand for the larger picture. I think people will target Wall Street specifically because they're talking about income inequality, specifically because they're talking about a lack of opportunity, that we don't have paid leave in this country, that more often than not, women constantly are ramping off their careers and can't actually reach their full earning potential, creating a drag on our economy. Those are issues that trouble people. And so oftentimes it's summarized into some negative talking point about banking or Wall Street. But I think the substantive issues are very legitimate and should be debated. And we do need more reforms to continue to keep our market stable.
All right. One other question. Donald Trump. He's a constituent of yours. Do you think he'll get the nomination in the Republican field?
You are the pundit, not me. I have no idea. I have no idea.
All right. Senator Gillibrand, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.